If you're charged with a crime in the United States, you're entitled to a jury of your peers. But we're going to question that composition right here, right now, on Due Process.
Major funding for Due Process is provided by Meade Lexus of Southfield and Meade Lexus of Lakeside, offering a large selection of new and pre-owned certified premium vehicles.
The new 2011 Lexus IS. Wheeled precision.
And by WWJ News Radio 950, keeping you up to date with the latest news, traffic, weather, sports, and business information 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Live, local, and committed to Michigan's future. News Radio 950, WWJ.
Thank you. This is Due Process. I'm Henry Baskin. We're going to talk about jury diversity, in particular in federal court for the Eastern District of Michigan, Southern Division, maybe perhaps not limited to that. We have two special guests with us today, the Honorable Victoria Roberts.
Good morning.
Welcome, welcome. So pleased to see you here. And Stephanie Davis, you are described as the Executive Assistant?
That's correct.
To the U.S. Attorney?
Yes.
Who's been here before, I just want to tell you that. But later on we'll be joined by Andrew Wise. Now Andrew is, he's on the defense side of the formula, so to speak.
That's true. He's with the Federal Defender's Office.
Okay. In a lengthy opinion that you wrote some time ago, you pointed out that there was a problem in the federal courts, specifically in the 7 counties surrounding your court, with jury diversity. Can you tell us something about that?
I was trying the case of Alonzo Bates, and there was a challenge made in that case to the jury composition, to our master wheel, and ultimately to the jury that Mr. Bates ended up with. And he alleged that there was a systemic exclusion of African Americans from the jury pool in the Eastern District of Michigan. And so I did write an opinion on that case, and while I didn't agree with him that there was anything on the part of the court that was systemic,
right,
I did agree with him that we certainly have a problem in the Eastern District of Michigan in being able to come up with juries that are diverse and that reflect the community that we live in.
Well, Stephanie, can you describe the enormity of the jury pool? I mean, it's not as if you live in a city like Southfield and you have people who live in South or Oakland County or Wayne County. This involves what, 7 counties?
That's right. There's 7 counties that are involved. Everyone thinks of Wayne and Oakland County, but it also includes Washtenaw County, Lenawee County, St. Clair County, Sanilac County, and I'm missing one county.
Monroe? No.
Monroe.
That's right. Guessing, but well, so the point is that you draw these people from as far away as Sanilac and as far away as Monroe.
That's
You
right.
invite them down to be jurors. Now, you know, initially people do not want to be jurors.
That's true.
That becomes a problem.
What I do want to say about that jury composition, we use voter registration rolls. And what we are supposed to do is have a proportional representation in our master jury wheel from those counties based on voter registration records. So that's our starting point.
Isn't there also another way? How about these ID cards that people have in the state? They use that in addition. So that means that you gather up all these jury registration names, put them in you call it a wheel. I mean,
Yes.
Is it actually a wheel?
Is it a
It's like-
physical wheel that
like
we
a game
turn
show?
and we turn? I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Okay, you put them there, and then these people are available to sit, are called to sit on jury trials. Now, whether they be civil or whether they be criminal, they're called to sit.
Yes.
How do you, with Detroit's diminishing population, with Wayne County probably losing population, how do you justify, how do you adjust this all to make it fair and equitable so that you get proper representation?
Well, we will be using the latest census data to figure out what proportions should come from which counties. Right now, we're relying on the 2000 census data. We've got the 2010 data now, which shows significant changes, particularly in Wayne County. So after we've analyzed that data, our new wheel will reflect the proportion of populations in those counties. That doesn't address how we make our jury wheel more diverse, but we will be able to adjust for the percentage of voters.
But Stephanie, let me ask you, do you see a problem in the composition of jurors? The juries, I should say.
Well, I think that, as Judge Roberts has said, I mean, you'd almost have to be blind to see that there is underrepresentation of certain groups in the jury pools. When we, as assistant U.S. attorneys, go in and, you know, we're seating a jury, if there's only 1 or 2 African Americans, maybe no Arab Americans in the pool, that makes it difficult.
Well,
so, yes.
in what respect? I mean, let's get, you know, really practical in that. How does it make it difficult for you as a prosecutor?
Well, everyone in the courtroom, from the judge to the prosecutor to the federal defender or the defense attorney, is concerned with a fair cross-section of Americans to sit as jurors. And when that doesn't happen, then that's a problem for everyone in the courtroom.
Especially the defendant?
Exactly, because the whole reason that we're all there is to protect the rights of the defendant. Oftentimes people think of the prosecutors as solely there to send individuals to jail, but in the process of prosecuting our cases, it's important for everyone to protect the rights, the constitutional rights of the defendant. That's why that particular rule is there.
And Henry, just to add some numbers to that, for example, we know that based on the 2000 census that about 22% of the population in Wayne County is African American. Under the latest census, that's probably going to change. But when we are beginning to start a trial and 50 to 80 people come in who would be prospective jurors, and we're all looking back at those people, and we see out of 80 people that there's only 1 or 2 people of color, we know right away that we're not going to be able to get a jury that represents that proportion. We know that it's not going to happen with each jury panel, but that's just an example of what we are seeing in almost all of our courtrooms. Very few people of color. When
you, I'm going to take you back to law school. We were supposed to have a jury of our peers. What exactly did that mean?
Well, I think as Stephanie said, and as the law now says, we're looking for a fair cross-section of the community. And that's why we're very concerned about having people of color. In this community that we live in, we know that we have a very rich population of Hispanics, of Arab Americans, of Chaldeans, of blacks. And, but when we are assembling our juries, more often than not, the people that we see are white Caucasians.
Okay, so the reason is that somehow, some way, these people are not giving you their names, right? I mean, it can't be that they would be in the pool and not be selected and be representative of cross-section of this area.
Well, that's not necessarily the case. A part of the problem is non-response, frankly.
Right.
So it isn't that we don't have their names, but if the court sends out questionnaires to individuals and then they receive no response whatsoever, then there's no follow-up, and obviously those individuals will not be people who are serving on the jury.
Right. I read it in an opinion, that people who don't respond are sent a second request, and after that, no one is out there being proactive, supposedly, to bring these people in. Now, I've seen judges send marshals out to pick people up who didn't show up for jury duty. So,
we've done that. Some of the judges on our bench, my bench, have taken that step. We don't know how effective it is. We are certainly factoring in the possibility of sanctions as we try to come up with a remedy for this. We're hoping that we can do something short of sanctioning people, however, in addressing the problem.
That would be tough. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Andrew Wise, who's on the defense side of this picture, and we'll be with you right after these 20 seconds.
Legal referrals and more information on this and other related topics are available on our website at www.dueprocess.tv. There you'll find information on today's program, helpful hints to legal issues, support materials, and lawyer referrals. You can also stream previous episodes of Due Process.
We're back at Due Process. We're going to be joined by Andrew Wise, who is, he defends people for the organization. Oh, there you are. Hey, Andrew, how are you?
I'm good, thanks for having me.
Glad you could join us. Are you familiar with Judge Roberts?
I am.
And Stephanie Davis?
Yes, very familiar, thank you.
So,
Hey, Andrew.
Andrew, you're on the side of the defense. You are there to protect people. Do you ever have thoughts about these juries that are seated, that come in, they pull the names, they sit, you seat these people? You ever see, visually, can you see the problem?
Yeah, so Stephanie was saying earlier, it's patently obvious when you walk into a courtroom on the day of jury selection, and the prospective jurors are seated in the back of the courtroom, and you look out there and you should be seeing, according to the census statistics, 1 in 5 African Americans in your potential panel, and it's usually the numbers are significantly lower than that. It'd be rare, as I think Stephanie also said, you see maybe 1 or 2 people of color sitting in the back of the courtroom for your prospective juror, and if you were sitting there, particularly with a minority defendant, it is very hard to explain to them, that this is a potential jury of their peers. Can
you point to actual cases where this lack of diversity affected the outcome in your mind? I know it's subjective. You're going to probably say if you lost the case, it was because of that. But can you see it? Can you feel it when you get into that courtroom?
Well, I think it's certainly, I think, intangible. You can't say, well, if we had a different jury panel, we might have gotten a different result. But it's not only the appearance of fairness, but also sort of those intangibles, the different experiences that different people from different backgrounds bring to the deliberations, that very well may make a difference. But
we talked about having a jury of our peers. This vague concept of these people judging people who are in the same economic, social level as you are. I mean, I don't think it ever worked. This was when we were in law school. We couldn't understand that it would work. But here it seems to be a significant problem if what we talk about is large Chaldean community, Arab community, and they're not represented, and African Americans are not represented on the federal juries. That is a significant problem. How do you just let me digress to the Wayne County Circuit Court, or let's use the 36th District Court, which is just Detroit. Is that representative, to your knowledge?
Well, it's certainly more representative of the judicial district from which the jurors are drawn. The 36th District Court seats exclusively jurors from Detroit. So almost by definition, you have, at least the jurors in 36th District Court are going to be drawn from the community in which the offense occurred and probably from which the defendant is from.
It's a tough question. Let me ask Judge Roberts, do you see a difference, Judge, in the outcome of these cases?
Henry, I can't say that I see a difference, but what we are all concerned about is just that the jury does have a cross-section. That's the operable wording of the statute, that it is a cross-section. And so, as Andrew just pointed out, we are more apt to get a cross-section when we can bring people in who are diverse in their backgrounds, who can deliberate and reach a decision. We don't want that decision to be made by people who have had just the like experiences over life.
Okay. I mean, you want them to have the same ethnicity, the same cultural experience as the person on trial, as close to it as you can.
Right, but we can't even say that they will have had that. What we can say is that someone with that ethnic background, with that cultural experience, with that level of education is going to add to the cross-section notion that we're trying to achieve with all of our jurors.
Okay. Well, Stephanie, if you look at 36th District Court, you probably get a fair representation of people who live in Detroit, right?
That's
I would
correct.
imagine. And I would imagine you've talked to some of your colleagues around the country. What are they doing with the lack of diversity? Because I'm sure there's a lack of diversity in other districts. Maybe the Western District of Michigan has a lack of diversity.
Well, you know, it's a quandary. It's not unique to the Eastern District of Michigan.
Okay.
And so one of the things that Judge Roberts and the court is doing, as well as Barb McQuaid tasked me with doing at the U.S. Attorney's Office, is really compiling information to see what's being done in California, what's being done in Pennsylvania, and trying to come up with unique or different ways, thinking outside of the box in terms of whom to draw from, where we might expand the pool in some way.
Right. Is there another way that we use voter registration? We use the ID cards that the state will give you if you don't have a driver's license, I guess. Is there any other way that they use that would bring diversity to Michigan's courts?
Well, one of the things that we are looking at, and our committee is, which is co-chaired by me and by Judge Denise Page Hood, is about to make some recommendations to our bench. And one of the things that we have been looking at is perhaps using tax records. There is a state statute that would allow us to do that, and we figure that people are going to be fairly current in their address information that they provide on tax records, and that will give us the ability to update our wheel and have more current information. Right now, the migration rate that we believe is happening is about 20% of the population in this area is going to change its address. So if we don't, within a year, so if we don't update our wheel with address changes, we're not going to be sending summonses out to people for whom we have current addresses. So we are looking to update addresses more frequently than once a year.
Right.
We are also trying to target certain zip codes where we're getting this non-response rate. We're trying to examine that and see if there are particular areas in the city of Detroit, for instance, where we're not getting the summonses returned. And we might be able to flood that zip code and get more people from that part of the city of Detroit.
You know, in effect, what we do is educational things here. So we're trying to tell people why it's important for them. Because if those people were the ones who were alleged to have committed a crime, they would want to see a fair jury representation. They would want to see it. But there has to be a way to speak out to the community and say, listen, this affects everyone here. You've got to send this information. You have to be willing to serve because it's important to you. It's important to your family. It's important to your colleagues. You have to serve. But, and by the way, it does pay money, doesn't it?
It does, but it's fairly nominal. One of the things that we've talked about also is for people who are employed, trying to get more employers to pay people their regular wage for the days that they are in service for a jury. And that's not done by all employers.
Yeah, it's sort of baffling because you talk about going to their residences, but a lot of people rent, and I'm not certain that they don't own the home, so they're renting, and I'm not sure anyone keeps a roll of renters, but it is a systemic problem, as you point out in this rather lengthy opinion. There's also something called the Cairo Project. I'm not sure what that was.
The Cairo study, Mr. Cairo was an expert who was retained by the defense in the Alonzo Bates case, which made the jury challenge. And Mr. Cairo relied primarily on statistics that he got from the court to come up with his conclusions.
I can't ask you to comment on a case, but did you see those, Andrew, those statistics?
I have seen those statistics.
Were they fairly accurate?
I think Judge Roberts, in her opinion, found some flaws with the methodology, but I think overall they were, for the most part, accurate with respect to the underrepresentation in the jury pool. But really Henry, you're talking about this as trying to convince people to come in for jury service, and that's an important component. But also a big part of the problem is the non-response rate when the court sends out questionnaires, and they do it at a couple of different stages. They do it when they're compiling the master wheel. They send out a set of questionnaires, and if you don't get a response to that questionnaire, a person never goes on the wheel to begin with. But then when they're picking jurors, they need to summons people in, and if people don't respond to those summonses, they don't come in, and they're not on the juror jury.
Well,
so it's really, and the part of the problem here is, I think, an economic problem. You mentioned the rate of juror compensation is currently, I think, at $40 a day, and that's by congressional statute, I believe. And if you are a working mother and you need to take time off and arrange alternate child care to come down for jury service, there's a huge economic disincentive.
Well, we have this problem, even at the front of the court. You come down, park your car, get a babysitter, park your car, and they say, come back next week. There's no money here for you. He's not here, the responding father. And you say, wow, this woman just spent $14 to park her car, $14 or $20 for a babysitter, and comes home without anything. There has to be a way to convince groups, there has to be a way to reach out to the community and say, listen, you may be arrested someday. You may want to see people of color, people of ethnicity judging you. And if you don't show up, you have a problem. I don't know if the money's going to attract them. I think that if they have to take time from work and don't get compensated, that's a real problem. I mean, that is an issue that I can see. But how do you propose that we do get these people to respond? In some counties, I think if you don't respond, they go and get you. I'm not sure.
They do, but as part of this committee that Chief Judge Rosen established, we have actually surveyed other districts, other states, to find out whether those kinds of hard tactics work. And they don't always work. I mean, it'll make a splash, it'll be a story for one day, and then the next recalcitrant person is not going to show up. What we do is we always survey our jurors after they have finished their service. Mm-hmm. And while many of them come in kicking and screaming because it's going to disrupt their lives, so many of them afterwards say they wouldn't have traded the experience for anything.
I hear that from all former jurors. Let me just say goodbye to Andrew. I know you got some cases to take care of. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for
and let's hope for change. Thank you.
Thank you.
I tell you, the grand jury, for example, my mother sat on the grand jury for 6 months. They became lifelong friends. They loved the experience. Of course, you have to know my mother to understand that, but they loved the experience. Even juries in your court, juries in any court, they come together and they form friendships.
Yes.
They have disagreements and friendships. I mean, it's you know, but why after the fact do people think it's great to have been a juror? It's always after the fact.
Well, they say that it really isn't anything like television. They really do understand the weightiness of what they're doing. They feel like they have made a contribution, and everything that they try to use as an excuse really does pale in comparison to what they feel they've done. And one of the things that we have talked about is using some of these real people who have a positive experience and putting together a DVD.
Bring them down here.
We'll bring them down here.
We'll put them on the show.
But using them to market to block clubs and community associations. Churches, all sorts of, the list, we're compiling it, but it keeps growing. And we're hoping that those real life experiences, along with the experiences of some celebrities who have been on our juries, who are going to be very recognizable to the community.
And judges who have been on your juries.
Judges as well.
Judges have to serve too. That's interesting. Stephanie, what are your thoughts? Are we going to be affecting some change? We have to be proactive to do this.
I think absolutely, and Judge Roberts has hit it on the head. The hammer doesn't always work, but the notion of having regular citizens who have been on juries to serve as ambassadors. I mean, as we sit here today, Judge Roberts and myself and Andrew Wise, we are ambassadors of the justice system. But we are not the only participants in the justice system. Each and every citizen who sits on a jury is also an ambassador for the justice system. And so we need to enlist them and have them out there to tell everyone.
You know, and I have other ideas. There are other juries, there are civil juries. They're listening to enormous cases. Somehow we got to surcharge these people so we can do public service announcements. These litigants say, X of this filing fee goes to jury education. And then we go out to the community and start doing these things, because I agree with you. The hammer doesn't work. We're going to find ways to get around it. But I do think that education has to work, and get those testimonials, those people who say, you know, I didn't want to do this, but I went down and really enjoyed the experience. But, you know, it's such a large, you go from Monroe to Sanilac, I mean, that's That's a large area to cover.
It is a large area, and we sometimes have people who are driving 70 miles a day to be a juror. And one thing that we do is that when people have that kind of distance to travel, we are able to give them money for lodging so that they can stay at a hotel near the courtroom and not make that drive every day. But even though we make that offer, a lot of people don't accept it. They still drive to and from home every day, and they do it without complaint. But that is something that we do offer because of the economic hardship that jury service is sometimes.
Well, let me tell you, I want to thank you, Stephanie Davis, for being here. Judge Victoria Roberts, thank you so much. You know, we'll get the word out. Anything we can do to help, just let us know. I mean, I think just talking about it now and having this broadcast and rebroadcast, you know, might encourage some people. It's a good experience. They're part of the system when they get there, and they're treated so well. Juries are treated better than the lawyers.
Major funding for due process is provided by Meade Lexus of Southfield and Meade Lexus of Lakeside, offering a large selection of new and pre-owned certified premium vehicles.
The new 2011 Lexus IS. Wheeled precision.
And by WWJ News Radio 950, keeping you up to date with the latest news, traffic, weather, sports, and business information 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Live, local, and committed to Michigan's future. News Radio 950, WWJ.